My dear friend, you cannot understand it by any possible means, you say, and I perfectly believe you. You think that I am going mad. It may be so, but not for the reasons which you suppose. Yes, I'm going to get married, and I will give you what has led me to take that step, but my ideas and my convictions have not changed at all. I look upon all legalized cohabitations as utterly stupid, for I am certain that 9 husbands out of 10 are cuckolds, and they get no more than their just deserts for having been idiotic enough to fetter their lives and renounce their freedom and love, the only happy and good thing in this world, and for having clipped the wings of fancy which continuously drive us towards all women, etc., etc., etc. You know what I mean. More than ever, I feel that I am incapable of loving one woman alone because I shall always adore all others just too much. I should like to have 1,000 arms, 1,000 mouths, and 1,000 temperaments to be able to strain an army of these charming creatures in my embrace at the same moment. And yet, I'm getting married. I may add, I know very little of the girl who's going to become my wife tomorrow. I've only seen her 4 or 5 times. I know that there's nothing unpleasing about her, and that is enough for me. She is small, fair, and stout, so of course, the day after tomorrow, I shall ardently wish for a tall, dark, and thin woman. She is not rich and belongs to the middle class. She is a girl which you may find by the gross, well adapted for matrimony, without any apparent faults, and with no particularly striking qualities. People say of her, Mademoiselle Le Jolie is a very nice girl, and tomorrow they will say, what a very nice woman Madame Roman is. She belongs, in a word, to that immense number of girls whom one is glad to have for one's wife till the moment comes when one discovers that one happens to prefer all other women to the particular woman whom one has married. Well, you say to me, what on earth did you get married for? I hardly like to tell you the strange and seemingly improbable reason that urged me on to this senseless act. The fact, however, is that I'm frightened of being alone. I do not know how to tell you or how to make you understand me, but my state of mind is so wretched that you will for sure pity and despise me. I do not want to be alone any longer at night. I want to feel that there is someone close to me, touching me, a being who can speak and say something no matter what it be. I wish to be able to awaken somebody by my side so that I may be able to ask some sudden question, a stupid question should I feel so inclined, so that I may hear a human voice and feel that there is some waking soul close to me, someone whose reason is at work, so that when I hastily light the candle, I may see some human face by my side, because I'm ashamed to confess it, but because I am afraid of being alone. You don't understand me yet. I'm not afraid of any danger. If a man were to come into the room, I should kill him without even trembling. I'm not afraid of ghosts, nor do I believe in the supernatural. I'm not afraid of dead people, for I believe in the total annihilation of every being that disappears from the face of this earth. Yes. Well, if it must be told, I'm afraid of myself. Afraid of that horrible sensation of incomprehensible fear. You may laugh, if you like. It is terrible, and I cannot get over it. I'm afraid of the walls, of the furniture, of the familiar objects which are animated, as far as I'm concerned, by a kind of animal life. Above all, I'm afraid of my own dreadful thoughts, of my reason, which seems as if it were about to leave me, driven away by a mysterious and invisible agony. At first, I feel a vague unease in my mind which causes a cold shiver to run all over me. I look around, and of course there is nothing to be seen, and I wish that there were something to be seen, no matter what, as long as it were something tangible. I'm frightened merely because I cannot understand my own terror. If I speak, I'm afraid of my own voice. If I walk, I'm afraid of I know not what, behind the door, behind the curtains, in the cupboard under my bed, and yet all the time I know there is nothing anywhere. I turn around suddenly because I'm afraid that there is something behind me, although there is nothing there, and I know it. I get agitated. I I feel that my fear increases, so I shut myself up in my own room. I get into bed, I hide under the covers, and there, cowering down, rolled into a ball, I close my eyes in despair and remain thus for an indefinite time, remembering that my candle is alight on the table by my bedside, and that I ought to put it out, and yet I dare not. It is very terrible, is it not? To be like that. Formerly, I felt nothing at all. I came home quite comfortably and went up and down in my rooms without anything disturbing my calmness of mind. Had anyone told me that I should be attacked by a malady, for I can call it nothing else, of most improbable fear, such a stupid and terrible malady as it is, I should have laughed outright. I was certainly never afraid of opening the door in the dark. I went to bed slowly, without even locking it, and never got up in the middle of the night to make sure that everything was firmly closed. It began last year in a very strange manner. On a damp autumn evening, when my servant had left the room after I had dined, I asked myself what I was going to do. I walked up and down my room for some time, feeling tired without any reason for it, unable to work, and without even the energy to read. A fine rain was falling, and I felt unhappy. It created one of those fits of despondency without any apparent cause, which makes us feel inclined to cry or to talk, no matter to whom, so as to shake off our depressing thoughts. I felt that I was alone, and my room seemed to me to be more empty than they had ever before, while I was surrounded by a sensation of infinite and impenetrable solitude. What was I to do? I sat down, but then a kind of nervous impatience agitated my legs, so I got up and began to walk about again. I was rather feverish, for my hands, which I clasped behind me, as one often does when walking slowly, almost seemed to burn one another. Then suddenly a cold shiver ran down my back, and I thought the damp air of the night had penetrated into my room, so I lit a fire for the first time that year. I sat down again and looked at the flames, but soon I felt that I could not possibly remain quiet, so I got up again and determined to go out, to pull myself together and to find a friend to bear me company. I could not find anyone, so I went out to the boulevards to try and meet some acquaintance or other there. It was wretched everywhere. The wet pavement glistened in the gaslight, while the oppressive warmth of the impalpable rain lay heavy over the streets and seemed to obscure the light from the lamps. I went on slowly, saying to myself I should not find a soul to talk to. I glanced into several cafes and saw many unhappy-looking individuals stirring at the tables who did not even seem to have enough energy to finish the refreshments they had ordered. For a long time, I wandered aimlessly up and down, and about midnight, I started off for home. I was very calm and very tired. My concierge opened the door at once, which was quite unusual for him, and I thought that another lodger had no doubt just come in. When I got out, I always double-locked the door to my room, and I found it was merely closed, which surprised me, but I supposed that some letters had been brought up for me in the course of the evening. I went in and found my fire still burning, so that it lighted up the room a little, and in the act of taking up a candle, I noticed somebody sitting in the armchair by the fire, warming his feet, his back toward me. I was not in the slightest degree frightened. I thought very naturally that some friend or other had come to see me. No doubt the porter, whom I had told when I went out and had lent him his own key. In a moment, I remembered all the circumstances of my return, how the street door had opened immediately, that my own door was only latched and not locked. I could see nothing of my friend but his head, and he had evidently gone to sleep while waiting for me, so I went up to him to rouse him. I saw him quite clearly. His right arm was hanging down and his legs were crossed, while his head, which was somewhat inclined to the left of the armchair, seemed to indicate that he was asleep. Who can it be? I asked myself. I could not see clearly, as the room was rather dark, so I put my hand out to touch him on the shoulder, and it came in contact with the back of the chair. There was nobody there. The seat was empty. I fairly jumped with fright. For a moment I drew back as if some terrible danger had suddenly appeared in my way, and then I turned around again, impelled by some imperious desire of looking at the armchair again, and I remained standing upright, panting with fear, so upset that I could not collect my thoughts and ready to drop. But I I'm a cool man, and soon recovered myself. I thought it was a mere hallucination, that is all, and I immediately began to reflect upon this phenomenon. Thoughts do fly very quickly at such moments. I'd been suffering from a hallucination. That was an incontestable fact. My mind had been perfectly lucid and had acted regularly and logically. So there was nothing the matter with the brain. It was only my eyes that had been deceived. They had a vision. One of those visions which lead simple folk to believe in miracles. It was a nervous accident of the optical apparatus, nothing more. The eyes were rather congested. I lit my candle, and when I stooped down to the fire in so doing, I noticed that I was trembling. I raised myself up with a jump, as if somebody had touched me from behind. I was certainly by no means quiet. I walked up and down a little and hummed a tune or two. When then I double-locked my door and felt rather reassured, now at any rate that nobody could come in. I sat down again and thought over my adventure for a long time. Then I went to bed and blew out my light. For some minutes all went well. I lay quietly on my back, but then an irresistible desire seized me to look around the room, and I turned onto my side. My fire was nearly out, and the few glowing embers threw a faint light to the floor by the chair, where I fancied I saw the man sitting again. I quickly struck a match, but I had been mistaken. There was nothing there. I got up, however, and hid the chair behind my bed, and tried to get to sleep, as the room was now dark, but I had not forgotten myself for more than 5 minutes, when in my dream I saw all the scene which I witnessed as clearly as if it were reality. I woke up with a start, and having lit a candle, I sat up in bed without even venturing to try and go to sleep again. Twice, however, sleep overcame me for a few moments in spite of myself, and twice I saw the same thing again until I fancied I was going mad. When day broke, however, I thought that I was cured and slept peacefully until noon. It was all past and over. I had been feverish, had a nightmare. I don't know. I'd been ill, in a word, but yet I thought I was a great fool for it. I enjoyed myself thoroughly that evening. I went and dined at a restaurant. Afterwards, I went to the theater, and then I started home. But as I got near the house, I was seized by a strange feeling of uneasiness once more. I was afraid of seeing him again. I was not afraid of him, not afraid of his presence, in which I did not believe, but I was afraid of being deceived again. I was afraid of some fresh hallucination, afraid lest fear should take possession of me. For more than an hour, I wandered up and down the pavement. Then I thought that I was rather foolish, and at last I returned home. I panted so that I could scarcely get upstairs. I remained standing outside my door for more than 10 minutes. Then suddenly I took courage and screwed myself together. I inserted my key into the lock and lit the candle with my hand. I kicked open the half-open bedroom door and gave a frightened look toward the fireplace, where there was nothing. What a relief, what a delight, what a deliverance. I walked up and down briskly and boldly, but I was not altogether reassured. I kept turning around with a jump. The very shadows in the corner disquieted me. I slept badly and was constantly disturbed by imaginary noises, but I did not see him. No. That was all over. Since that time, I have been afraid of being alone at night. I feel that the specter is there close to me, around me, but he has not appeared again. And supposing he did, what would it matter, since I do not believe in him and that I know that he is nothing? Still, it worries me, however, because I'm constantly thinking of him. His right arm hanging down, his head inclined to the left like a man who was asleep. Enough of that, for heaven's sake. I don't want to think about it anymore. Why, however, am I so persistently possessed with this idea? His feet were close to the fire. He haunts me. It is very stupid, but it is so. Who and what is he? I know that he does not exist except in my cowardly imagination, in my fears, and in my agony. Yes, it is all very well for me to reason with myself, to stiffen myself, so to say, but I cannot remain at home, because I know that he is there. I know I shall not see him again. He will not show himself again. That is all over. But he is there all the same in my thoughts. He remains invisible, but that does not prevent his being there. He is behind the doors and the closed cupboards and the wardrobe, under the bed, in every dark corner. If I open the door to the cupboard, if I take the candle and look under the bed, if I throw a light onto the dark places, he is there no longer, but I feel that he is behind me. I turn around, certain that I shall not see him, that I shall never see him again, but he is, for all that, nonetheless still behind me. It is very stupid, it's very dreadful, but what am I to do? I cannot help it, but if there were two of us in that place, I feel certain that he would not be there any longer. He is there just because I'm alone, simply and solely because I'm alone.